Alrighty boys, welcome back once again to another video. How you guys doing? Guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the newest spear in Fortnite Save the World called Sir Lancelot. We had a live stream about it yesterday, and in today's video this will be the official review. Yesterday's live stream was kind of a little bit of a first impressions. Today I've been sitting on a little bit of information, testing out the weapon, and it'll be a little bit of a review today. Today we're going to be asking the question, is this the new best melee weapon in the game? Obviously it does not take a genius to know that this spear is easily a top 3 melee weapon, and although I don't know the most about melee weapons, hopefully I can point you guys in the right directions in terms of a good perk setup and a good hero loadout, and at the end of the video we'll have a general discussion after taking a look at some tests that I did. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's take a look at the spear itself. So first up, we're going to go to the schematics. We're going to sort by melee weapons, and we're going to take a look at my personal build for Sir Lancelot. Now Sir Lancelot with this specific build will come out with 27,107 damage, 53% critical hit chance, and 320% critical hit damage. It also has a 0.67 attack speed, durability of 300, and 1252 impact. Now this is with an energy element Sir Lancelot. If we actually go on over to my backpack, I also have a physical one that I was using as well, and the physical one, if we were to go over to the stats, will have 31,000 damage and 446 compared to the 27,000 that the energy has. Now the reason I did go with energy is because I did find myself using this a lot on some elemental smashers, and I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more useful against those types of enemies. So the perk rolls that we went on this are obviously a double crit damage, a crit rating, and a damage roll, and we went with, you know, whatever element you want to go with. And the final perk says hitting an enemy with this weapon grants +8 armor for 5 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. The description for this weapon states that it's a spear and it's of the medieval category, a spear that combines a good mix of damage and impact to deliver long-range thrusting attacks. Joust. Charge forward, damaging and knocking back smaller enemies in your way. Now we can go and take a look at this perk setup, because the reason I went with these specific perks is basically to take the most advantage of the heavy attack that this weapon has. The heavy attack that the Sir Lancelot has, although it has its downsides, is an amazing heavy attack and probably one of the best that we've seen since the Spectral Blade, of course. We have the crit damage right here, crit rating, damage, and crit damage. I've seen some people put attack speed in this slot right here, but personally I am just not a fan of attack speed, seeing as this weapon already has a very good attack speed, and if you were to miss out on a crit damage because you decided to put an attack speed, actually in this case you would probably want to put the attack speed here so you don't gotta rearrange all your perks, but losing the potential damage for this attack speed just doesn't make any sense to me, because with my specific build, a lot of the time you're gonna find yourself one-hitting enemies, and this will be due to the affliction ticks as well, because we went with a very affliction heavy build as far as the hero loadout is concerned. But with this specific build on the Sir Lancelot, I actually find myself one-hitting enemies quite consistently, especially blasters and, you know, even sometimes husky husks as well. I will find myself one-hitting them, so I feel like going with attack speed on this weapon is not a good idea personally, but you can do it if that's your style of play. For me, it has never been my own style of play. Now if we go on over and we take a look at the commander, we take a look at the loadout, this can be a little different depending on how you want to go about things. Now I'm not a melee mastermind, I've already spoken out about this, but when it comes down to your commander perk, you have two options. You either have Deadly Blade Crash, or I've seen some people use this one right here, which is Deadly Lotus Luna. I forgot her name. So we take a look at Deadly Blade Crash, and we take a look at her perks. Her commander perk will say melee critical hits will apply a 30% snare and affliction, which deals 87% of damage dealt each second for 3 seconds. So keep in mind that her critical hits are what's going to apply the snare, and it's also going to apply the affliction, and keep in mind her critical hits are 53% of the time. Now if we take a look at this girl right here, we have Deadly Lotus Luna. Her perk says increasing spear damage by 50% against afflicted enemies, and that spears apply affliction, which deals 18.5% weapon damage per second for 3 seconds. Now me personally, I don't know which one of these is better. I have no idea. I have not done any testing, and I'm also not that fluent in melee, but I want to make this apparent that Deadly Lotus Luna and Deadly Blade Crash are both very strong commanders, so keep that in mind. But me personally, I went with Deadly Blade did crash. Now, since we've already taken a look at those, let's go and talk about the team perk. So the team perk I went with was Preemptive Strike. It says it increases your damage by 6.5% against full health enemies for each hero or epic or higher rarity with at least 4 stars. So essentially you're getting more damage stacked on top of each other for every hero that you have slotted, as long as it's epic or legendary. So I like this a lot. This is what's going to lead to you one-hitting a lot of enemies, and it's going to make your weapon very, very useful for this, which is why I really like my own crit build. Now, for this hero right here, we have Piercing Lotus Edge. His perk increases your spear heavy attack efficiency by 65%, an absolute perfect hero for using your heavy attack, which is kind of what we're mainly focusing on here. Then, of course, we have Luna. Right here, we have Rapid Charge from Untitled Chapter, an absolute essential hero. Rapid Charge will, melee eliminations will grant 7.5 energy, which is really good. We also have Assassin Sarah right here, which can be replaced with any assassin hero. Dealing melee weapon damage grants 1 stack of assassination for up to 5 stacks. Assassination lasts 5 seconds and increases melee weapon damage by 4.5%. And lastly, we have Wings of the Dragon, and I want to kind of point this out. This is very much personal preference. For me personally, I feel like this character is a very useful character whenever she's used with the spear, if you're also going to utilize your Dragon Slash along with it. You know, you can rush through enemies, and then on your way back you can Dragon Slash. So you can either go with Rice Gum right here, or you can go with, I believe it's just Cuddle Sarah as well, that she'll leave the tail of the dragon, which I know a lot of people really do like. Now that we've went over the weapon perks and we've went over the hero loadout, let's take a look at a few clips, and actually I'm going to show you guys how this weapon performs in action, and then after that we'll do a general commentary and I'll discuss my feelings on the weapon. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's take a look at a few clips. So the first clip we're going to take a look at is actually a pretty standard clip. What I'm going to be doing is I am going to be one-hitting 2 blasters with my heavy attack. You're going to see that I hit them with my heavy attack. It pushes them back as well after the initial damage, and the affliction ticks afterwards are just going to melt away at their health. Keep in mind that I am in a game by myself, power level 127, using a 130 against power level 100s. So if I were in a game with a complete full squad, I would be killing these a lot faster. For instance, here's a clip of what it's like to use the spear against a smasher in a full squad of heroes. You'll see that I'm using a 130 physical spear against a power level 100 smasher in a group of 4 people, and you're gonna see me absolutely melt this smasher into the shadow realm. And that is basically the purpose of this spear, and that is why I'm asking the question of, is this the best weapon in terms of melee? Because I've never seen a melee weapon quite melt a smasher quite like this spear. So it's definitely an interesting question that I kind of wanted to bring up to the community today and for everybody watching this video. So in this clip right here, obviously you were seeing me absolutely melting a smasher. Now let's go ahead and take a look at an elemental smasher that I used this spear on. As you will see me charge this smasher, attempt to use my charge on the smasher, and you'll see that it's not very effective, and then after that I will end up hitting him until he dies. On the latter half of my attacks, my crits are on point, and you will see his health bar diminish. And we'll take a look at one more clip right here, and this would be me using my physical spear on a physical smasher. My first barrage of attacks didn't crit, however my second barrage critted on almost every hit and completely melted him away. And keep in mind, those other 2 clips were in a game by myself, so I was not boosted by my teammates. So those are the clips that I went out and got while I was just testing out this spear. Now let's go ahead and go on over to the gameplay portion of the video, and I'll give you guys my general thoughts and opinions on the spear, because in my opinion, although I don't like melee, this weapon has got to be one of the most fun that I've tried out in a while. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Alrighty boyos, so here we are at the gameplay portion of the video, and I kind of just want to give my overall opinions on this spear. The gameplay you guys are going to be watching in the background, I believe it's just me and one other person, and I believe a few others are going to join as well. So if the damage numbers do look a little bit different or not as strong or a little bit stronger than normal, that is because I'm being boosted by my teammates. This is also a power level 100 encampment that has no modifiers on it. So the number one thing I do want to mention in this portion of the video is that, well, right now you are seeing me take full advantage of the anti-cuddle Sarah perk that is going to be giving me more energy. You're seeing that as I'm using my joust ability, I'm actually earning the energy back, and I can then continuously keep on using this ability. Now, this is the ability working at its prime. This is how it's working as it's supposed to, but there's actually a glitch right now in the game with certain modifiers. I believe it's the damaging pools that can be left on the floor. I forget what they're called. Don't call me an idiot. You probably will, but there's some kind of problem in the game right now where I believe it's like death pools or something very similar that get left on the ground. It's a modifier, and it's actually going to prevent you from charging with the spear. So do keep that in mind if you are using this spear and you're getting very frustrated at your heavy attack getting canceled early. That is because of a bug, and it is not intentional whatsoever. So I wouldn't exactly blame the spear in that department. But yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about the spear in general and how exactly do I feel about this. Well, we had that live stream yesterday where I was giving my first impression on the spear, and this was my first ever attempt at making a loadout for a spear hero and even really using a melee loadout in general. Most people that have watched me on Twitch, you know, I do streams all the time over there, I talk a great deal about this game, and especially about melee in particular, and the stabby stab animations, as they're called, mixed with the really cool heavy attack, has kind of revitalized my love for melee. What I really look for in melee is diversity, and if Fortnite, if Epic Games were able to deliver on this diversity like they have with this spear with every melee weapon, melee would be in a much greater place than it is right now. You know, I really enjoy the spear, but not only for that, but I enjoy the spear for how much it melts every enemy. Now, I'm very unfamiliar with the scythe build with your Harvester Sarah character. You know, I know a lot of people will run scythe builds with the neon scythe, and they will, you know, run that build consistently, and a lot of people do this, but out of all the people I've seen run that loadout, me personally, I don't think I've ever seen somebody melt a smasher in the same fashion that I have seen this spear melt a smasher. By the way, at this portion of the video, you guys could actually see me stop a smasher rushing at me with my heavy attack, which I found very interesting. Some of you guys were asking me that on stream, and I wasn't able to answer your question, but there's the answer to it. For me personally, you know, although I am not that familiar with melee, like I said at the beginning of the video, it does not take a genius whatsoever to know that this weapon is easily a top 3. And what are we looking at when we're looking at top 3? Well, we're looking at Spectral Blade, we're looking at this spear, of course, the Sir Lancelot, and we're looking at the Neon Scythe. And in my personal opinion, I feel like this weapon does way more damage than any of the other better melee weapons. It's just, you have this top 3, you have a sword, you have a scythe, and you have a spear. This weapon goes above and beyond what I was expecting it to be. You know, I made a patch notes video that was introducing the Sir Lancelot spear, and it actually got a lot of dislikes, and that was because people just did not like the patch notes at all. They were like, you know, these are pretty disappointing, I don't want a spear, you know. We're getting a return of a character that we already know isn't really that great. You know, he just gives you more grenades or blah, blah, blah. I actually will be doing a video on him tomorrow. But, you know, a lot of people really didn't like the patch notes because it was just, it's just a melee weapon. It's just a spear. But then you actually get your hands on this weapon and you realize that this weapon is extremely fun and it's extremely effective in what it does, and in my opinion it's kind of revitalized me personally with me liking melee. It's something new, it's something refreshing. This thing will melt enemies on top of that. It's a really fun weapon that I highly encourage you guys go out and use, and I would take it one step further and say I highly encourage you guys to use all of your legendary perk up on this weapon. As you guys know, whenever I do a review on a weapon or whenever I'm taking a look at a new weapon, I constantly, every single time, always bring it to all legendary perks, and this will be one of the only times that I highly recommend that you bring this weapon to all legendary perks. The only bad thing about this weapon is that with your charge you cannot turn left or right after you start it. You can't change the direction of your charge, which would make it a lot more effective in my opinion, but I can see why you can't, as it's called joust, and jousting you go straight. So I can understand that, but this is one of the few cases where I'm actually going to recommend you guys 100% 100%. Max this weapon out and use it. Give it a try. It's very fun. I'm very much a supporter of this weapon and a supporter of new melee weapons that function like this. I love this weapon a lot. It's really freaking good, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. I do want to hear your opinions in the comments down below, of course, on how you personally feel about it. But when I did the live stream yesterday, the consensus of pretty much everyone is that this spear kicks ass. But guys, that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly do appreciate it, and I hope you guys did enjoy the review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.